Working a little bit more with layered artwork, I have some options as far as how I'm viewing my objects. So first thing that I can do, and this is a longer route, is to select my layer. With my selected artwork, I'm going to click the target to turn everything on in this specific layer. And if I wander up to the object menu, I have a hide or I have a show all. Show all is not an option at this point. It's grayed out because I am not hiding anything. If I do a hide and hide my selection, basically it disappears. And if I look in my layers panel, I see that my indicates visibility icon, which is the eye icon, is gone. So that tells me that those objects are hiding. So I can go back up to object and do a show all, and it will bring that icon back to be visible, making my objects visible once again. That's a little bit of a longer method. It probably is easier for you just to turn on and turn off the eyeball icon. And when I click, it turns it off or disappears. And if I click in that empty space once again, it makes it be visible. Now, a couple of extra modifier keys with this eyeball icon will do some unique things. First of all, if I hold down the Control key and click on my layer visibility icon, what I just moved into is called outline mode. So we have two modes that are visible in Illustrator. One is an outline and one is preview. And you can also find those under the view menu at the very top. Preview mode versus outline mode. When I choose it from this menu, it turns my entire document into outline mode. And this allows me to see the detail in my graphics, and it will allow me to do some fine tuning without being distracted by the fills and strokes. Also, if Illustrator is running a little bit slow for you, you can turn it to outline mode and it should speed up the processing. So that was control clicking. That does not work on a sublayer, only on a layer. If I hold down my Alt key, what that does is it turns off. I'm going to collapse this so you can see it a bit better. The Alt key on the icon basically toggles or does a show all, hide all, except for the layer that was clicked. Okay? If I do a Control, Alt, and click, what that will allow me to do is switch all of the other layers to outline mode, but leaving the current layer that I clicked on in preview mode. So that was a Control, Alt, and click, and it allows me to do that change. If for some reason I cannot find an object, maybe I have just a lot of things going on, and I want to figure out what layer is my M on, or what layer is this leaf on, I basically need to select the icon. Now, there already is a hint in my layers panel because I do see if my layers were all collapsed, and let's say, imagine you had maybe 40 different layers or 50 or 200, and you're trying to figure out what layer is this leaf on. If I select it, I can go over to layers and I see a little bit of box there, my indicate selected art box, that tells me it's on this layer. But what if I don't know that, or I don't see that, or I have so many I just can't find it? I can use a locate object command that's under my layer panel. Here it is. It's an option, locate object, and what that will do is notice it opened my layer so my sublayers were visible, and it highlighted or made active my sublayer in which that object lives. I can also do a reverse order. So I can change the stacking order of my objects. Let's look at the flower and the sublayers inside. So if I hold down my Shift key, click once, hold Shift, I'm able to select a sequence or several layers that are in order. If I want to just select specifics, I can hold down my Control key and select those individuals and non-contiguous. And now navigating to my layer menu, I can choose to reverse the order. And what that does is basically takes what was once the bottom of the stack and moves it to the top. And you can see now that my yellow circle is hiding behind. The top object is my pink petal, and my light pink petal also moves. So they just a reversal. And if I wanted to go back, I can again click those objects that were involved, go back and do a reverse order, and now it's back to how I originally started. There is an option also that we can place Photoshop, and we can export this to Photoshop. Let me first show you how you may want to export. So if you had done an illustration in Illustrator and now you want to bring that over to Photoshop, I can do a file and export. Now the export gives me many options for exporting into different file types. You can see them listed here. If I choose Photoshop, what it will allow me to do is export this, and if I click the export button, you will get a dialog box that allows me to control some of my settings. For instance, you probably want to leave this at CMYK, being this is what I'm working in. My resolution, once I travel to Photoshop, I'm now resolution dependent. It's depending on my resolution. So basically what we're going to be doing is some rasterizations potentially. So I can choose what kind of resolution. Remember, if you're gearing for the web, 72 is all you need. If it's going to be something for print, you want to bump up that resolution to at least 300. Go ahead and click OK, and now it's going to write a Photoshop file, and now it's listed as a Photoshop document. I also can place a Photoshop document into Illustrator. And exactly what I said, a place. File and place. This is how you're going to get those graphics into Illustrator. So here's a Photoshop document. I'm going to click place, and here I have my loaded cursor. So my loaded cursor now allows me to click and drag my Photoshop document into Illustrator. So at the moment it is linked. You may have noticed in my dialog box. Let's go back and just look at that one more time. So I'm going to do a file in place. Again, I'm going to click. Right now it shows a link. So that means that this will not be embedded in my Illustrator document, but instead linked. So if I hand this Illustrator document off to somebody else, I have to make sure that I send along my Photoshop document, or else it will be missing. So here my document is showing up as a layer in my layers panel. So those are some ways that we can work with layered objects in artwork.